Good afternoon. Welcome to GovSchool. My name is Mark here today to get you started learning about how to read and write RFPs. And so I want to thank everybody coming to us live. We are live on YouTube now, as well as on Zoom. I'm not able to answer questions in the chat room on YouTube, so please come directly to the system. Also, please maintain your mute status while you're in the room. It helps with the background. If you want to pop that on, everybody should have that set when you first come in. And I will go through and pop that on. Okay. Thank you. Please, if you don't mind, please maintain your mute status. There we go. That helps everybody in the background. Okay, so everybody will have the best experience. We're expecting probably a good 100 people in this classroom today, and we all thank everyone for coming. Okay, give us here just a few minutes. I'll get everybody in here. Usually you like to give everybody 3 or 4 minutes before we get started. A couple questions you're probably going to ask me. Is this a recorded version? Yes, it is. You can go to YouTube Live. As soon as the session's over with, you can pop that. You can actually watch it there on a live setting. So it will be available to you. Let's see. I'm also going to have the chat room open so you can ask questions. Since I do that, I want to go ahead and make sure you understand that others will have access to that as well. And for privacy reasons, please make sure you're aware of who you're talking with. We won't ask you specific questions in the chat box, nobody on our staff. And so that's important that you're aware of that and try not to give out any kind of confidential information for this particular series here. Okay. If you're going in, I'm still letting people in the room. I do like for you to share your documents. I think if anybody's come to any of my sessions, you always can go in and share your capability statement. Tell me a little bit about yourself and what you're looking for. And I'll start off in the chat room just to say hello for you. Hey, everyone. And know that it's a bright Thursday afternoon here in Atlanta. And I still got a pile of folks in the waiting room. So let me just get everybody in here. Okay, just give us a few minutes. Please maintain your mute status while you're in the room. It helps us out. I know some of you come in unmuted as a function. Okay, and I'll throw that on there. I always like for you to ask questions. I don't mind if you do unmute yourself to ask a question as we go along. Just to keep it orderly, it would probably be wise just to raise your hand and let me call on you if we hear one or two talking over each other as we go in. So we got 4:03 here. I'll just a few more minutes, maybe one more minute. I will use that and I have to fill my glasses here. My name is Mark Knowles. I'm one of the founders of GovDirections, and GovSchool is our service where we actually help you learn just a little bit more about writing and how other parts of how to work with government. And so we enjoy doing these sessions for you. This is a complimentary session today, and I'm glad you all took time to come. There we go. Still coming in. I'll let us slow down just a little bit before us get started fully, so I don't have to repeat myself here. Going in there. There we go. Slow down now. So thank you all for coming. If you do have access to Google Drives, I'm gonna give you some links as we go along that allow you to have access to information that you can use in the future. And I'm gonna give you some documents that you can use. If you do have interest in receiving those, you can always email me, and I'll send those to you. Email anybody in our office, and we'll get that information to you. So here we are on a bright Thursday afternoon. Once again, thank everybody for joining us. I have a PowerPoint that I'll kind of walk through, or Google Sheet. Excuse me, I think it's a Google presentation. I use the free versions, and I have these slides for you that you can get a little bit later. Once again, the session is live on YouTube and it's being recorded. And today's topic is responding to the RFP. And as a part of this, I'm going to really start off with talking about how to read the RFP. I think it's important that you need to understand what you're actually looking at whenever you're trying to match yourself up with the right government agency, and make sure you're pinpointing the opportunity. And so GovSchool is a service that we offer. We are a 360 approach to the business of government contracting. I think I mentioned to everybody in the email that we started our GovDirections site March 7th of 2006, and we made our first dollar March 9th. It took us 2 days before we actually convinced somebody to pay us a few bucks there. And so I have that dollar on on the wall, and I've been showing it off to everybody here recently, and I'm just proud of that. And we almost forgot about it, but it was written in right in the small part of it, March 9th, 2006. So that's been a good long time, and we certainly appreciate everybody's trust in us and what we're doing. We have a very simple objective, and that is to help you win government contracts by putting them in front of you. You know, we're dealing with a fragmented marketplace. The concept of home rule is really strong in the United States, and home rule basically means we want to make those decisions as localized as possible on how we spend our money. Not necessarily all the time that I want to hire somebody locally, but I do want to make that decision. And so the city councils, the county commission, the school boards, all of them in control of that procurement process. And it's oftentimes a very elaborate process, but it takes years to get up to the point where they actually go after a project. And so it's important that you understand how that flow works so that you can really get in there at the appropriate time in order to win and procure, be a part of the procurement process. And so we created GovSchool to help you do that. And so as we get along, just to quickly a background why I'm interested in this topic, you can go up to our LinkedIn page there. I got my LinkedIn profile there for you to go visit. This is my interest is in helping you understand how government spend operates. And spend basically means the budgeting decisions that local governments make. How do they actually go out and decide to buy a new truck or buy a new roof or put a new roof up or put how are they going to, what's that involve? And so I teach that as a topic, and I have a background in it. And so that's why I have such a strong interest. I've been doing this now for really since 1988, and that's been a good long time. And I've worked actually in some 400 plus projects in 35 states. To get those projects and win those projects, I've had to bid on a lot of them. I think in the thousands now. And so I've got some experience, and just to share that with you, a good friend of mine who teaches these classes and on leadership and how to really work through any kind of process, talks about experience. You know, sometimes it's just the same year over and over again. And so that's kind of what it is a little bit. So once you get it going, then it tends to fall in place. And so it tends to happen. And then time flies by before you know it. In this particular session, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to identify the structure of a request for proposal, and then I'm going to walk through each section, and so that you can understand the importance. And I'll try to highlight what the areas that I actually focus in on. Now, I'll focus in on the entire RFP as you look at it. But there's certain parts of it that I'm going to go in right away and take a look at before I move too far along, because there's a lot of time involved in actually the preparation one. I'm working with somebody, just got the phone with her. She's one of my favorite clients. And she's identified, I think, maybe at least 20 RFPs she wants to pursue this month. I'm like, oh my goodness, that's a lot in 1 month. But we're going to do our best to make all those happen. So I'm going to use an actual RFP, and I'll show you how to get it efficient so you can actually go after all of those in the process. I'm going to use one as an example, and then identify each of the sections. And then I'm actually going to start a response and show you how the flow of the response will actually work. I'm a big believer in experiential learning, and I'll share with that whole process. And just to know, there's a reason why you're here, along with now 76 other individuals. It's hard. Okay, it's supposed to be hard. If it were easy, everyone would do it. So you need to take some practice. You need to take some time to learn. You know, as I pointed out in that email, it wasn't easy making that first dollar. It took some time to learn that process and understanding. I have to admit that, and we started our company in 1998, and we actually built another company and then sold it in 2003. Had it set out for a while, but the first 6 months, my partner and I will tell you, we literally didn't. It was nothing. It was dry, and that was a very hard process. And in fact, the very first, we didn't have credit cards back then. Somebody sent us a check. And the very first check somebody sent us, it didn't clear. And it was so frustrating. It was so hard. But it took everything we had, but it's now paid off. And because, like I said here, if it were easy, everyone would do it. And that's really a Tom Hanks quote. I use it for every presentation I have, just to remind everybody that it takes commitment to really move forward. And this is about a softball team. And you would think that softball is so easy. We can all just get out there and play softball. But you want to be the best, and you really want to win the pennant, and you got to get out there and you got to work hard and just know that. And so what I'm going to do today is kind of show you how to while you're working hard, work efficiently. And in this process, I'm going to use the terminology and the government's use. Okay. Now, I'm also going to shorten it a little bit. I'm going to talk about RFPs. Okay. And I'll call everything an RFP. Now, I know the difference. I've been doing this for a long time. Okay. That means request for proposal. But there's other types of instruments that you're looking at and you're going to see, and there's reasons for those. And they approach you in different ways. The request for information, for example, where they're just basically seeing if there's a marketplace, sometimes even referred to as a source of salt, or a more detailed request for qualifications where they got something specific they were looking for. They want a civil engineer and they want to check out your qualifications before you bid. And you want to make sure that that's the case, because when you're bidding, you want to make sure everybody else is a civil engineer too, or whatever that is, a certified plumber or a certified roofer, or you got some sort of certification. You worked hard for that, and governments want to know that and want to appreciate that. Or, something very simple, an invitation to quote. The government call you up. I've had this frequently happen to me where they call me up now and say, hey, I'm looking for a small project to get done. Give me a quote on it. And I'm taking 2 or 3 individuals' quotes, and that's all I'm doing. Very simple. Got to be ready to go on those. I'm going to show you how to and make sure you are ready to do that. As we go in here too, we're going to be looking at invitations to bid, or requests for bids. This is where the government really does know exactly what they want. And they basically got it all outlined for you. All you're doing is mostly filling in the blank, and you're going to do a very straightforward, comparative, low-cost approach to awarding the bid. And then my favorite, the true request for proposal. And in the request for proposal, the RFP, they really are seeking your subject matter expertise. You come in, give them some guidance. They know what they want to achieve. They know their objective. They know what they kind of need to do. They don't know exactly how to do it. And so it gives you the opportunity to shine. And so it's important that you take that opportunity and that you're prepared in that process. And so I'm going to kind of share how you go about doing that and making sure that's available to you. Okay. What is a request for proposal? I think we need to look back at the pure definition just to get started, because it's important that you understand that it really is a solicitation. The very first question I get almost always when I talk to clients or talk to new folks who are just coming into this, now, isn't this really kind of fixed? Isn't this a done deal? And I always say, no, right? No, it's not. In fact, if they go through trouble with issuing an RFP, an invitation to bid, then they really do want a solicitation. They're asking for you, they're soliciting you, your company, to get a response. And it's through a bidding process. Okay, that's not always just a low bid, but it could be a number of factors that you're bidding against others. It could be cost. It could be your experience. It could be your understanding of methodology that you have, and others. And so there are 4, 5, 6, 7 times evaluation criteria that they may use occasionally. So it's important that you understand that. But so you got to be able to shine at all different levels, and it's always done by an agency or a. I'm still letting folks in the rooms. Just give me just a few minutes. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. Okay, we're talking about the RFP, and this is a recorded version. So you'll be able to pop on and see everything from the beginning. And so it's something that an agency, so an organization, okay, the whole theory of contracting together. I need you to do something. I need somebody to help me with something. I can't do everything efficiently within my organization. So I'm going to outsource that. I'm going to contract with another firm, the theory of the firm. Okay. And that's the reason why we do these things. And sometimes you even have, I might contract with one firm and allow that firm to contract with multiple others, subcontracting, because they need to bring in other expertise in order to accomplish the overall objective in a very efficient way. So it's made by that agency, made by that organization for the procurement of something that's valuable to them. That and that's always important. There's some service they need or a commodity, and they're looking to the marketplace to really help them and to do that. So they reach out to potential suppliers. They want the folks who are qualified. Supplier meaning I'm qualified to do this, to submit a business proposal, and that's important. That last part, because oftentimes I see proposals that come back and they look like you just wrote them off on a back of a napkin sometimes. And you don't want to do that. This is a serious business. Sometimes it takes a government a year to get to a point where they issue the RFP or the invitation to bid. So they want you to be able to give them something professionally, something back. They don't want you asking questions that aren't serious, that you didn't even bother to read the RFP because they put everything in there. I go in and look at the questions and answers sometimes, and a lot of times it just says, read the RFP, and that's the answer. I'm like, that kind of sends a signal right away that you're not taking this seriously, and you're dropping your points right there with that approach, and you should never do that. Please maintain your mute status while you're in the room, unless you have a question, and you can raise your hand, and I'll call you, and I'll be glad to do that today. If you do have a question, I don't mind you unmuting. Just interrupt me as we go along. I'll be glad to try to answer those questions as we get into it. Typical parts of an RFP. Okay, here is what you're going to see in every, and I want to go back once again, all the different instruments. The good news is you're going to find these same parts in just about every instrument that you are looking at. Okay, they're going to have a statement of work. This is where they're going to summarize in a very clear way what they're looking for you to do. SOW. Okay, and oftentimes it should be no more than a paragraph, 2 to 3 sentences on average. It's the responsibility of the issuing agency, the government, maybe it's a local, state, or federal agency, to be clear in that statement of work. The concept of ABCs: accurate, brief, brevity, and clear. Accuracy, brevity, and clarity. Okay, so it's their responsibility. They have to lay everything out. You're not to interpret it in any different way than what they've laid it out. Okay, you're not expected to give them other parts back they're not asking for. Okay, so they have to. It's their responsibility to be clear. So that's always important, because a lot of times that'll go in will actually impact your bid, and you're adding on things they're not even looking for. Okay, so that's where they're going to break that part down in the technical specs. In the specifications, they're going to list line item everything they are hoping to achieve with it. Sometimes it's in a service they're looking for. It could be very global in nature. Sometimes it's very precise in nature. If I'm buying a new Ford truck and I want to make sure I have a certain type of color on the texture of the seat. A lot of times they get very specific. Okay, so you're going to read through those. Now, what I always tell clients whenever they're reading these, the first thing is that statement of work. Okay, that's the first thing you're going to watch. That's the first thing I'm going to look at right when I go. If I get a bid and it has 80 pages, I'm going through it and trying to find that statement of work first. Okay, it's probably usually to page 3, 4, 5, somewhere in there, but it's going to be right there. And I'm going to read that paragraph. And if it should speak to me, and in fact, it needs to be singing the song in the back of my head. You're the one that I wanted to find. That's a Coldplay song. And it's one of my favorite ones, because that really means that you're getting business right there. Because when it sings that song in your head, that means you're going to win that contract. You got a good shot at it. Okay, so you pay attention to that concept of making sure you're a perfect match. Because if you are, then you should be moving forward. If you're not, if it doesn't hit you right away, move on. This is a $7 trillion marketplace. There's going to be opportunity for you, and it's going to match you better. Okay, it takes a little bit of staying power. I get that, but you want to make sure that's there. You don't want to make yourself fit for a project. Okay, oftentimes I'll get clients who call and say, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing custodial services, groundskeeping, potentially storage," and then they're like, "Who can I hire to do this for me?" I'm like, it doesn't really work. Government contracting doesn't work that way. Yeah, I know you may see videos elsewhere and it's a middleman concept, things like that. That's difficult. The business has to speak to you, and you got to say, I can do this, or I already have in my portfolio someone who can get this work done. It's not that you can't be a middle person. It's that you got to have it ready to go. Okay, this has got to be something that you can already speak to. It's not that you're going to go out and try to find answers for that. That's a very difficult proposition. Okay, so understand that as you go in. The statement of work needs to sing that song. If it does, then step into the technical spec. Now, the technical specs, you don't have to have 100% match on those. If you get in there, let's say probably a rule of thumb. If I could do 75% of them, then I'm pretty good. I'm going to still move forward with it. Now, I'm going to try to find answers to get to 100% of the technical specs, but they're not going to expect everybody to come back and meet that at 100%, just so you know that. Okay. Always pay attention to the schedule. The schedule is a pricing mechanism as well. How much time, first of all, do you have to respond to the RFP? That's one side of the schedule. The other side of the schedule is when are you required to deliver? And in my line of work, when I do consulting work, if they want a quick turnaround, they want something done in 2 months, I can do it in 2 months, but it's going to cost you twice as much, because it's going to require you to set aside everything else that I'm doing in order to go in and do that, as opposed to a more typical schedule doing the type of work that I do over a 6-month period. And so that's important. That helps you in that pricing mechanism of your schedule. But pay attention to it. Governments aren't going to change their schedule usually. They're going to, what they lay out is what they're expecting you to respond to, and in that process. So understand the schedule. but also, but once again, two sides of that. The other part of it is making sure you have the full schedule of the RFP and when you're going to respond to it. And it changes. I was just on the phone with someone. We thought we had a bid due tomorrow, and it's actually due. They moved it and changed it to the 15th. And no one was notified. It wasn't until we got in there to see that did we notice that change. And we helped someone last week. We sent the bid in, and then because it had to be hand delivered, and then the day we sent it, they actually extended it for another 2 weeks and added a completely new set of documents. And so we're having to redo the entire thing. So you got to follow their schedule. They're not moving around you. And that just brings into to the whole concept on the schedule and making sure that you have the time. That work itself expands so as to fill the time available for its completion. And so that goes both ways. If you got 2 days to do something, you're going to contract. If you got 12 days to do something, it's going to go the other way. And so it's important that that's Parkinson's law in business. And so you got to be able to maneuver and be ready to go with some of that. And so we'll make sure you have those tools in place and we'll do that. Now, the list of deliverables, this is also part of how you actually set your pricing. Okay, so here's what they're expecting you to do. And sometimes there will be supplies and parts and other types of actual equipment that has to be delivered by a certain time and drop shipped in a certain way. And so you got to pay attention to that and understand what that. Other times in your services supplies, it could be that you got to have you have a progress report at the 25th percentile mark, another at the 50th percentile. Oftentimes that drives how they're going to pay you. And so that's important. I think getting paid is always very important in how they do that. So pay attention to the list of deliverables. Contract terms and conditions. The contracts that you're under, I think you're all, if you've been doing business at any length of time, then you understand this is your profit center. This is how you made money. Okay, the terms and conditions. And this is going to control whether or not you lose money too. When the whole concept of forbearance, something goes wrong, how are we going to address it? How are we going to deal with it? And it's going to be spoken to in that contract. And understand they're not likely to change that contract. That's a contract that's been set in place by a city attorney or a county attorney or state's attorney or attorney with an agency. And so they can't just contract an officer or another. They can't just waive these terms. And so always know that. And oftentimes they'll give you an opportunity to red line a contract, but then you read into the fine print point and they say not suggested. Okay, and so heed that advice. Okay. Make sure you can live with the contract. If you can't live with the contract, then you might need to walk away from that proposal. The format of the proposal, they're going to tell you in this part how to actually prepare the proposal. They're going to tell you, give them a table of contents, give them a cover letter, give them these are the sections that they're looking for. Pay attention to that. And that's how and don't go in actually, a lot of times folks will go in and prepare a sample proposal and have it ready to go. And then they won't make any modifications to what the actual government is asked them to do. So your one section might be your qualifications might be in an area too early than what they'd ask you on the actual individual proposal from their formatted proposal, if that makes sense. And so you don't want to do that, okay? And you want to make sure you do exactly the way they add. And because the first person you really are getting past is the contracting officer. And you know what they're doing? They're basically checking off that you're following the instructions. You got all the instructions done. Now, the person who's actually evaluating, they may not care so much about the actual where you've got these things laid out, but that contracting officer does. Because that's important. That they're going to pass you through. Now, the qualifications and experience, another section, you should be able to sell yourself. Get it ready to go. Okay, have it ready. Talk about yourself and also your company, and then anybody who's associated with you. And I think it's important. It should be very clear. Oftentimes, a paragraph or two. Sometimes they want your resume. If you've got resumes, make sure you have everybody's resume in your company in the same format. I get resumes from individuals, and they'll be within one company. They'll have 10 different methods that they're preparing them, and they'll have comments, and they're looking for a job or something. This is not the kind of resume they want. Okay, if they want a resume of your past experience and your qualifications, they don't necessarily need to know that you're offshore. No, that's not really that important. Your general location, that's not necessarily that important. They want to know your skill sets, your knowledge. Okay, typically what they're doing that, and whether or not you're a member of the women's club or the YMCA, they don't really care. Okay, that's the things you don't think you can leave off: qualifications and experience. Always have, the other thing on experience. I always tell folks this: this is important that you tell stories, okay? And so when you go in, you want to make sure every piece of experience, you say, this is what I've gained here. This is why I have this experience. Potentially, here's a project that I've done. And in this particular project, I was responsible for building a compensation study for 400 employees. The county implemented it within 2 months, and now everybody got a 5% pay raise. I don't know, tell a story about every one of those, and make them engage with you. So, and also giving them information. That's part of your any sort of reference that you might have. So when they call to check your reference, and they will, they can engage with that individual in a more direct way, and that's going to build your plus from them. You can get more points for that because it's actually a conversation they're having about what you've done, and it's building that. It's just, instead of just confirming that you work with them, or and just having on there just the phone number of the individual and the email, and they're just asking just to confirm that you work. So you want them to engage. Okay, and then cost breakdown. Know how to cost yourself. Okay, I've been sitting here, actually a few of us within an organization helping one specific client when he's looking at potential the product that he sells, and we're pulling together costs from others as comparative. But before we did that, I said to them, before we do this, go in and tell us how much it costs to actually do your service, to make money, and be successful, and get that price down first. Factoring everything that's involved with your cost, and then let's take a look and see what your competitors are doing, and see if you need to shave any of that. Okay, or if you have the room to go up. Now, cost breakdown is, and when you're doing that kind of analysis and price analysis, a lot of times it's based on a number of different factors. So you need, in your business, in your industry, go in and look at the evaluation criteria that every government is using in the products that you're responding to, the service that you respond to. Most of mine that I respond to, there's typically 4 or 5 factors. One of those will be price, but it's typically the lowest percentage breakdown. So the weight is almost always on experience, and it's always on other factors, such as my understanding of the methodology that I have to do, and about background, my qualifications. And so if I can get 75% there, then my price point, my cost breakdown, I can go a little bit higher and still win, okay? Because everybody else who has less experience, I think I told you I had been doing this since 1988. I got a lot of experience. It's year in, year out. And that's how I sort of evaluate that. But they help me. So I can go in at a 70% percentile on my cost, because everybody else is not going to have those points on the top end. So it's important you understand that evaluation criteria. It's not just about low bottom numbers. Okay, so these are your typical parts in RFP. So when you go through an RFP, you're going to look for these and try to understand where they're at. And the first thing we're going to do when you do that, you're just going to go to that statement of work, and you're going to hear that song start playing. You're the one that I wanted to find. When I used to do this, I would actually try to play that song, but YouTube will strike it out because you can't play music on YouTube. I learned that the hard way. And so when you're doing that as a part of this, you want to make sure you have a good, solid capability statement. You're hearing these 5 years ago, capability statements really weren't a thing, to be honest with you. Federal government agencies require a statement about your capabilities. This is details. We have this service available for you. This is something you really have to have ready to go these days. They're asking for specific information. Dr. Cynthia Harper helps us with that. And she has a video online here that you can learn from, and we can put you in touch with her, or you can give us a call. We can assist you with that, but you're looking at specific items about your company. Local and state governments more and more are starting to request these, and they have to have, your branding and your marketing, your pop, but more importantly, they have to have the right content, and that you got to have your mission statement. You got to have your codes that you're using, NAICS codes, but also now NIGP commodity codes where you do local government. NAICS codes work at the federal government, NIGP at the state and local government. You're looking at your past performance. You're looking at any kind of certifications that you have, all in one succinct document. So have that ready to go, so you'll have that, and that's part of your part of the section that you'll be looking for in your qualifications and experience. And you can include those now, typically on all those bids. And when you actually go into a bid, I want to give you these helpful approaches. Okay, the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure you read the entire proposal. And I know it's frustrating sometimes, and you take a look at it. It's 80 pages and 100 pages. I think I've seen 1,000 pages one time. Okay, very detailed proposal. RFP. And so, but it's important that you read every single part of that. Now, the truth of the matter, at the federal government level, a lot of the Form 1449, there you're going to have the same thing over and over again. The part about your reputations and your certifications, you already do that. So you're able to, once you read a couple, then you can kind of skip through them on the parts and focus in on the schedule itself that you're actually responding to. Local and state governments, not so much the case. There's one I was working on last week. It was the one local government borrowed it from another local government. And so a big part of it, as I got through some of the detail, they were asking a lot of strange things that I was like, well, how would we need it? How would we even respond to this? It's not even part of this RFP. And nobody ever picked up on it because no one's reading the entire proposal. So you want to do that. Yeah. Pay attention to the areas that we discussed, every one of those areas. Set that thing aside, think about it. Don't just go and do something at once. Okay, think about what you're going to do. You sleep on it overnight, next day, so before you go back in and do that, and then sit down after talking to your colleagues and making sure that it really is a good fit. Okay, you heard the song, but then you want to make sure that your boss agrees with it or your partner agrees with it and others. And so you want to make sure that's a good fit. Okay, and then complete the proposal. The more you're able to do it in one setting, the better off you are. Now, the truth of the matter is I go back and forth on my completion of proposals a lot of times because the work expands to fill the time available for its completion. Okay, and because I get pulled and distracted in different ways. But my typical writing period when I help my clients, I start writing at 4 a.m. to about 6 a.m. and get it all done. And I think about it a lot more than actually spend writing. Okay, because you got most of the details ready to go, and you pull it together at one setting. Okay, but the thinking part really where you spend your time. Okay, and I think you should be aware of that. Organize. Always keep everything organized. Use a Google Drive. Okay, it's free. There's other ones that are out there though. Some of my clients have mentioned that I talked to somebody who uses Monday.com. That's one I recommend. If you want a service, Monday.com helps you organize and work collaboratively. But Google Drive, it's free and it's useful. I work with all of our clients that way who I help develop it. I'm going to show you how to do that. Develop indicators of success. Okay, these are items that you will see. One of the requirements I have when I first work with somebody is I ask them to tell me what is the perfect bid, what is the perfect RFP for your company. You should know that before you search for one of them. Okay, and so you need to know, and that could be a lot of different things. Okay, but it'll save you time when you see these. For example, I always typically look for smaller to medium-sized counties that I'm working with, or smaller to medium-sized cities, and I define that typically by population or by number of employees. I do human resource management type projects with local governments. Okay, so those are kind of some indicators. I like to find out who is the decision maker in the process. If it's a finance director, I'm going to do a little bit better because I've got a more financial background and thinking process. Okay. Also, take a look at the government in the more recent meetings that they've had. And if it's a contentious environment, it seems to be a lot of contention these days. But I'm not going to go into a community where there's a lot of 4-3 votes. It's not going to do me any good. It's going to push up your blood pressure. It's just not fun. It's not being a good environment when they're not getting along. I'm not going to work there. So that's one of my indicators. Okay, and you see, I haven't talked about money yet. Okay, because money is typically one of the things that are down the list, and is a part of that. Another important part for me is that in the geographic location, because I spend a lot of time on the ground in the area. I want to make sure it's a comfortable place to work, and I want to make sure there's a fishing hole within about 10 miles, or maybe a bike riding path or something like that. It's important that these things are part of your business and your work, and you see these things, and you're going to find that it will make your success grow better and save you a lot of time as well. Always go ahead and just prepare your templates. That's one of the most important parts. Have your cover letter ready to go. Have your cover sheet ready to go. Have the document itself in some ways. Once you do one of those, you really don't want to necessarily do your template for your RFP until you actually have one that you're modeling after or that you're actually sending off. Because that's a better template. Okay, and then you'll use that for the future, because you'll find the same request over and over again. Okay, but always though, make sure you change your template, you modify your template for every single proposal that you're doing. And for goodness sakes, do your price research. See what your competitors are bidding. Okay, don't go in there it's 100% above everybody else. It's just a waste of time. Or 50% below everybody else and leaving all that money on the table. You look like an idiot. You don't want that to happen. Okay. And that's important. Okay. And always, always, always update. Stay on top of the game. If there's a change, check back on the bid itself, and make sure that you catch the change. They're going to have some questions and answers. Read through all the Q&A so that you can have that information and use it appropriately when you actually go into bid. Okay, and so as I said in our invitation day, I'm going to give you some experiential advice, and you actually go up there and take a look at an RFP, and you can learn more about our RFP writing service from our front page. But we do help clients with this process that I'm about to share with you. Okay, so when you go into actual to take a look at, still folks coming here. Okay. And as you came into the room, if you're a little bit later, as I go here, I'm going to show you some details, but this is a recorded version. It's on YouTube Live. You can go to youtube.com/govdirections and get this right after our section. It'll be ready for you. Okay, I'm gonna go in and actually at RFP Delivery itself, and I'm gonna open this up and give you some real live. I'm gonna find the bid here. Some clients have shared. I think I got about 50 of you sent back emails giving me some ideas. So as always, I'll pull the best ones. When you go in, I always like to point out, this service here, RFP Delivery, we've had now for a good year, and it's designed to really specifically go in and do some geospatial analysis, showing you the bids in your backyard. Okay, and so you can really drill down. You can see all the active bids. There's some 51,531 bids right now, but you can drill in all the way down to the street behind your house. Okay, there's a bid there for cheese items, dairy cheese items. So if I step into it, all the bids are going to have the same sort of information. This is for the federal prisons in Beaumont. They're buying cheese. These are run-of-the-mill type ones. I'm not going to go this way because this is going to be an invitation to bid. I kind of know the details on this, but all of them are set up the same way. When you go through, we got a great capture system. You capture the bid, and then you won't lose it, because the first thing you're going to do is you're going to move away, or you're going to step away, and this window's going to close and you can't find that bid again. Say, oh, it's a perfect bid. I found it. Now you can't find it. It's just something you want to have that. They're all right there. Your captured bids. So you can view those captured bids there. Follow that external link. Okay. And so as I step in here, I'm going to go back and I'm going to go back and actually show you how to do some keyword searches. Remembering your filters are over here on the left. Filter, keyword within filter on the left. Here on the right, or broad filters for keyword. Okay, so this could be global, everywhere. Here I can go in, I can say, hey, I want a compensation study, and I'm going to go into human resources, because there's other types like insurance compensation. I don't want to deal with that, or compensation might be in another bid itself as a keyword, and it could be a lot of different ways. Okay, and so I can go back in, I can limit my states if I want to, but nowadays you can work just about anywhere. So I usually don't do that. If I want to go and look into an advanced search, it's through set-aside. Set-asides, of course, are at the federal government level only. So if I do choose one of these, I'm going to wipe out all of my state and local government. Okay, so that you can get very precise in your filters. I don't want to do that here, as well as your NAICS code. NAICS codes, North American Industry Classification System, only at the federal government level. PSC codes, same way. Product service codes. That's a product when I'm selling products. Okay, if I put that in, then I'm going to limit myself very precisely in what I'm looking at. So right now I'm going to do a more global filter. If I save the filter, it also applies it at the same time, and then it's going to show me those. I can go back and pull that at any given time. So I got myself 20 potential business opportunities available. Let me just go back here and I'll show you how I can, since I save that, I can go back and just run that. So if I want to use my save filters, I click here, my filters, okay, and then I can come in and go very quickly, and then I can see that all the different filters I saved, and one of those was compensation. Okay, and so I've done this a lot on my various times. So I can just pull those and I can run that filter, and then it'll show me the most recent one first, and then the others one by one that are on there. Now, if I was to go in and actually run a keyword search, I could do the same way. Maybe I will search compensation study. This is the Boolean search technique. Meaning if those two words are together, then I'm going to find them together. Okay. This is some pinpointing. It's important that you actually pinpoint. Okay. At this point, I've got 10 more precise in my search. I want to save my word search, and then I can run that word search at any given time. I've already actually saved that one. So it gave me a time instead of already saved it. So that way, if I go in my home account, I can go in and run keyword search. If I'm in my settings, okay, here, go in, save searches, here my keyword, compensation. There we go. I can run that, fly it. And so I may want to do that, every day. And this one here is more precise there. I may want to do it every day at, let me go. So there. Yeah. Right. This one's, I might want to do it at 5 o'clock before I go home. That way, if there is something that needs to catch my attention and I might have to work it all nighter, then I have that ready to go. I have everything ready in my Google Drive. I can do that. I can grab that bid and I can respond to it. So here are the ones that are out there. Let me just see if I find one that catches my attention. Okay. This one's South Carolina. I like South Carolina. It's a good state. Go down and work on the beach. But here's one in Georgia. March 14th. It's due next week. Let's go in there and see what's going on. There's another one in Georgia. There's 2 of them. So I'm going to go in, pop that off there. This is going to be in Milton, the city of Milton, Georgia. Okay. And so they've got a bid out. It's due March 14th. Here's how to do business with them, the actual reference. If I step into it, let's go out there. Okay. Folks are still coming in the meeting room, waiting room. Okay. Here we go. This is actually going to the bid. Okay, so here I go. I got the bid open. Downloaded it. Okay. Getting close to our maximum number of folks here. So let's see what happens. So we got the bid open. I'm gonna pop that bid open. Okay. Downloaded on my system here. Okay. So it's now a PDF. Okay. Okay, please maintain your mute status when you come in the room. It really helps everybody. Okay. There we go. So here's, I need to add this to share. You're not looking at the same screen. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so here's the PDF. Most everything's in PDF. Remember that always keep your PDF, your Adobe up to date. Okay, that's important nowadays, especially when you're dealing with writing and you want to reserve the information. So make sure you had somebody earlier. Make sure the fonts that you use and things like that are all a match. And practice before you actually send something off. It's important. So as we get in here, the first thing I'm going to look at, this is a cover letter. Okay, and it's a bid, an RFP. It's due March 14th by 2 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to pay attention to the time zone. Not everybody's in your time zone, and so that's important when you're responding back. Okay, who I can talk to and contact. Okay, how I'm going to respond back to them. What are they looking for? Here's the table of contents. They're going to give me an ordered process. It's going to be organized well. They took some time to do this. Okay, they're going to give me a checklist so I know what they're expecting back. All these details here. Project overview. Here's that scope of service. Okay, so I'm going to look in there. I'm going to jump to that probably right away. Oftentimes in these, whenever you're doing PDF, you can click on it and it will go through to this one. It didn't. So I'm going to come back to some of these other things, but I'm going to go first to the scope of services. Okay, and schedule events, background overview, which is important. That's where I'm going to look for my indicators of success. Let's see your scope of services. Okay, let me go back up there and see where they're at. Page, should look at that. Section 3. Okay. Section 1. I have not looked at this one. This is brand new. Okay. Section 2. Section 5. Section 4. There we go. Scope of work. So they're looking for someone and a consultant to come in and do a citywide classification compensation study. This is what I do, so it's perfect. It's and they've broken it down. They want to review, they want a market analysis, internal equity, salary structure. This is all just right up my line of work. It's singing it. I'm hearing that song. This is the one. Under that, Milton's not even an hour away. I can go up there and do that. It's going to be cost effective, and in the process, it would be very interesting to get the work done. Okay, so I'm going to step back. I'm going to take a look at what they're asking for. Okay, and you start looking at the actual specifications. They had question deadline. I should have been on top of this earlier and responded by February 27th. They posted the answers March 4th, and then I'm going to have the proposal back in hand March 14th, and then they're going to award the contract. So that schedule works. It works well with me. I could get to work. Probably going to start the work maybe May, June. And I need to go back in there and always check that. So what I'm going to do is I want to make sure I'm organized. Okay. And so here we'll go back, we found the bid, found the perfect bid. I'm going to go back in and I'm going to actually go in and my member drive here. These are clients that I work with here. Let me just check my share. So we're still here. And I have a sample folder here. Okay. Open my sample folder. This is the folder that I have available. Okay. And what I'm going to do real quickly here in the sample folder is I'm going to give everybody access to it. Okay. Sure. I'm going to drop that into the chat box. If you're in this room, you can tap into this if you know how to use Google Drives. Okay. And so when you come in here, you can see there's a folder called templates. I have it ready to go. I have an area called RFP Process. I have an area called Client Files. In Client Files, this is where I use as a Dropbox, where I just always go in and take my things like this is my capability statement. I drop it in there, keep it organized. Okay. So that way I have everything in a folder that's right there for me. Here's my logo, ready to go. Okay. And then I can go in and when I do it with my clients, I'm making sure they have everything popped in there. Okay. The templates themselves, as I open that up, I got my cover letter template. I got my template for my proposal, which is empty. If you try to tap into this, you're not going to get anything on this one, okay? Because this is always built around you when we do this, okay? And so it's important you build it yourself, okay? But the cover letter, I'm just going to show you one. It's ready to go. I would go in. I would put my logo here, potentially. You know, you can go in once you have that. And you can go in and insert the image from the drive. And then you come in and you'll see your logo. There's my logo. We use the same logo since they got that first dollar. And so it drops in there and I'll just use that and have it ready to go. Okay. So that's important. I'm going to use that throughout. I'm make sure I have an address at the bottom. Usually I come in, put a nice little, here's my address. Let's see, it's 675 fonts, okay, whatever. Okay. And then I might go in there and put, insert me a horizontal line, look a little fancy. Okay. Put that information in there. Have my title, my name, everything ready to go in here. Okay. And your bid response, things of this nature. So these are your templates. Build your template so it's ready for you to actually use. And you just go in there and you can change the name on the contracting officer and you change it and ready to go. Have your capability paragraph here. This is really how you sell yourself. Always take the opportunity to sell yourself. Nobody else will do it for you. Remember that, so you got to make sure you get that statement. It should be a paragraph. And this should be something, the best thing, what you want to tell about yourself, be proud of what you do. This is focus in on that and how you do it. So you'll see these other templates ready to go. Okay, my RFP process, I'm going in. I'm going to have my components always pre-built, ready here. Okay, and I always have organized the things we've talked about already. Your executive summary about your company. You're going to go in. You're going to make sure your qualifications, your methods and deliverables are there. These are questions and answers that you're getting from governments about how you do your work. You'll find that you can just add those up and you continue to do that and develop that and make it get better as time goes along. Your certifications that you might have, this is individual certifications or potentially those certifications that you might have for your company. All the various forms that you use, W-9 form, things, for example, E-Verify, things of this nature, all there for you. And then your performance. It's just like samples of your work. There's no reason why you can't just put it in there, just like I did with this Google Drive, and link to it potentially on whenever you give a report back to or proposal back to the government. So you have an actual sample of your work ready to go. It can be a video about what your product looks like. Have it stored there. Okay, and so I think that's always important. So these are how you organize. Okay, your RFPs of interest. This is how you're working. Now, there's really 5 stages of bids in RFPs. The first stage is actually planning. It's basically upcoming or pre-solicitation. There's the government's thinking about doing something. We know they're going to think about it. How do we know that? Well, there's a number of different ways. First, they already have been doing this for years, and then contracts expire, and they got to go out and renew them. Okay? So watch out for expiring contracts. Second, they might go out there and they're going to start something that's new. They're going to talk about it in the community. They're going to have maybe on their agenda. They're going to have a public meeting notice of some sort. They're going to put it in their budget. They're going to talk about it. And before they ever actually go to the point to get to the RFP. So you're going to maybe have a folder where you watch that. And then you're going to go to the active stage. This means that bid's on the street, ready to go. Once you prepare it, you're going to submit it. And then you're going to go to a win stage. And then you're going to also find a lot of these that you're not going to actually bid on. There's going to be something wrong with it after you've looked at it for a while, and you're going to study that. And this is always, I call this my learning folder. Okay. And I'm just going to rename it right now. Learning. I do that every single time, just so understand that this is a process about understanding how decisions are made. And I want to share with you, most times when you lose, it's not your fault. Okay. A lot of times there's emotional and social factors that go into the decision-making process. And a lot of folks have studied this for decades and generations, in fact. And I think one of the most famous quotes, quips, I wouldn't say not necessarily quote, but made by Professor Coase, who came up with the whole Coase theorem of why we contract with each other. When humans get engaged with it, he said one time on a question about what is their impact, and he goes, well, you know, at the end of the day, humans are basically stupid, and they make decisions that are not logical. And so understand that when you go into it, so sometimes decisions aren't going to go your way. It has nothing to do with what you did. Okay, it had the fact that I had my Atlanta United jersey on instead of Miami jersey. I don't know, whatever it could be. A lot of different factors that go into it. Okay, but enough on that. We're going to go back to the active stage. Get in here. What I'm going to do, I'm going to start me a folder. I'm going to call it Milton, which is the name of the government, and I'm going to say it's due March 14th. It's going to help me stay on my toes. Okay, so I know when it's due. Okay, so I'll call that, just name it out right away. Okay, in this, I'm going to actually start my response. First of all, I'm going to drag and drop the actual proposal RFP that they're asking for in here, so I don't have to get back and forth. So there it is. And then I'm going to start my response, new document, create. We'll call it RFP response. Probably maybe actually name it after the actual RFP as I go into it. And this one here, I'm always going to do a cover letter, cover sheet, and then my proposal, always. Okay. And my cover letter, I'm going to go back there because I've already got it done. Let's go back to my template. Okay. Copy it. Over response. Drop it in. Okay. Have it there. Now I'm gonna cover sheet. I'm actually going to start a new section. Break. Section break. Okay. Then I'm going to drop in my cover sheet. It's already been built. Go back here. Let's see here. Getting too many items opened up here. Get back. Fine. Yeah. Go out here real quick and grab that template. Actually, I could have used that link I gave y'all earlier. I forgot about that. Sorry, I'm bouncing around, man. This is the part about being experiential, making sure we're learning together. Sample folder, going in, templates, cover sheet. Okay. I'm going to copy that. Going in, my response, drop that information in. You know. In this case here, I always like to use my logo. I know a lot of times some folks say use the company agency's logo. I'd like to use mine. They know their logo. They don't know my logo. So I'm going to try to bring it back in here. Drop that in the center. And I'm going to call my RFP name here. Okay. And then I'm going to come down to the proposal. I'm going to start another section break. Even my sections are important because then I can come back in and do things very quickly and putting the footers and headers all together so it makes sense, and I'm able to do that in the right way. Okay, and so pay attention to that part of it. As a part of this, when I go in on my proposal, I'm going to always do a table of contents. Okay, insert table of contents because it keeps it orderly, unless they tell me not to do that. Okay, And when I do that, I'm going to use my headers. So the very first thing I'm going to do is probably an executive summary. Okay. And I'm going to put that in there about my company. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in there and I'm going to set the actual to set to. Okay. And here we go. Please maintain unique status. And I go in, when I do that, maybe the next thing is going to be my qualifications. But I'm going to actually do what the government asked me to do. Okay. I'm going to show you how this actually works here. So going in, header 2, and then I can go in on my table of contents. I can just very quickly run that and keep that up to date as I'm doing everything, so that it shows work progression. It helps me, gives me confidence in what I'm doing. Actually, I'm accomplishing something as I go along, and so I can keep this organized in such a way that it keeps working together. I'm going to, of course, start at this point. I'm going to actually, within this section, go in and actually do page breaks. Okay. And that way it keeps it organized. Now, what I'm going to do specifically for this, okay, is I'm going to go in and pull out the details of that bid. Okay. Okay. So what they're asking me to do, if I have a formatted proposal, they want you to review the RFP, they want you to fill in the questions, they want to do answers, standard contract, submitting proposal, they want cover page, they want disclosure form. Okay, so I'm going to take this part, I'm just going to copy it. This is the format of the proposal. Okay, I'm going to copy that over. I'm going to lay that out. Okay, I'm going to always go back and forth. This is important, I think, too. A lot of times we want to use a lot of different fancy fonts and so forth. It just doesn't serve you a purpose. You'll end up at the end of the day having some problems somewhere along the line. Okay, someone's not able to view your font, things like that. Okay, so it's important that you, I think, just keep standard. Okay, go in, use 12-point Arial. Okay, it's always important. Okay. I use 10-point in my footer. Okay, footer, you don't do that here. Okay. Your footer, always I like to do quick in, horizontal line, insert. See here, where's the line at? Okay. And then I always do the name of the proposal, my name, maybe, name of my company, directions, response. I can't type. To RFP, okay. Page, options, not to link elsewhere. When I do that, okay. Exit out. You know, do it before that. Page, and then I put the page number, and it keeps it ordered. Put the name of the RFP. Okay. And I think that's a better way to do that. Make sure you have that. Okay. As you go in here, this is going to be your sections that you break out. Okay, they're going to have a disclosure form, and you need to do it in the order that they tell you to do it in. Okay, so this is going to be the next one. It's going to have to be signed. Okay, so I can come in. I might start using that as the proposal letter. Okay, that's already at the top. Okay, I would move it to the section right here. Okay, so I'll go back in. And this would become my section 3. Okay, I'm going to do exactly what they asked me to do. If I go in, I'm going to do all these others too. I might break it out. You know, I always like to use what's referred to as the elements of style. Is strong. You can look that up on the internet, and it helps you out with writing. You know, I would prefer to use that little booklet than I would use any kind of AI. I'm telling you, AI is not your friend necessarily when you're writing RFPs. And you see it over and over again, the same sort of language, and it just comes across as boilerplate, and that you didn't take it seriously. And they really want to understand you as a company, your writing style, and how you're going to interact with it, and not some artificial intelligence. So I'm not down on artificial intelligence as a whole, but in specifically with writing RFP responses back, it's not necessarily the best way to do that. Okay, keep going with your headers, and doing that always in your experience and your references. Have them ready to go. I know a lot of times you're brand new, and you don't have references. Okay, so always remember when you're doing references and saying how this is breaking it out. So this will help you out there. When you're doing references, Speak, have those that you've worked with first, okay? Those that you worked for second, and then those who can speak to good character third. Okay, come to some sort of understanding. You can't do that and ask somebody. You got to have some references. Okay? Each reference, always build a story around it. Okay, any kind of question they ask you, always do. If you can use the words "for example," use it. Okay, as an example of my work here is what I did. Okay, that's important that you do that specifically when you talk about statement and procedures. So I really have walked it through. We're at the 5 o'clock mark. I want to kind of slow down here. You're seeing how I approach this. You lay it out. You do exactly what the government's asking for. I want to encourage you to go to our site, and you can see some of the videos there at the very top when you first come in. Under GovSchool, our YouTube channel is right there. Okay, and you can click on there and you can watch these in more extensive more everything sort of broke down. But with that said, today, I want to thank you for coming. I do want to let you know there's an individual classes coming up on Tuesday, March 19th with with Tammy. If you have an interest, you can scan that. This is a one-on-one more style with small groups, and she's working with. I think the group is actually 10 individuals she works with, and it's an hour and a half long process of working with you. And so you have that. And just so you know, and you got to actually get out there and break into this. But the only source of knowledge is experience. It really is. You got to have some practice. Get out there and actually prepare a response. Even if you don't send off that first response, go ahead and prepare it, and then wait and see who won it, and you kind of evaluate what you did against them. It'll serve you well. Okay. And with that said, thank you for joining. I'm going to take a look at questions. This time, since I'm doing questions, I'm actually going to get us off YouTube Live. And so everybody who came to YouTube